Once again, we're back on Lutherans Alive with our Lutheran brother, Pastor Don Green, serving as Executive Director of Christian Associates of Southwestern Pennsylvania. Don, again, thanks so much.
Good to be with you.
For taking the time to come in. Before the break, we were talking about some of the new developments in congregational life. Church plants, we sometimes call them.
Yes, church plants. Yeah.
Particularly on the south side of Pittsburgh. That area makes the news a lot because of the bars and the rowdy activities that go on. It's encouraging to hear that there can be a spiritual plant taking place there, and ministry and mission that grows out of that.
And it's addressing the new population, the young singles, multicultural community, because it's that sort of diversity. And as I said, those are folk who normally are not going to find acceptance in some of our older congregations and that are rather tradition bound. But not only are churches doing planting, some of our traditions are trying to adapt to the new culture and setting in which they find themselves. Metropolitan Maximus, Greek Orthodox bishop, has said, you don't need to become Greek to become Orthodox. And so he is encouraging the use of English translations of their Greek chants and hymnody so that people can participate in the liturgy without having to learn Greek. The Orthodox Church in America and the Antiochian Orthodox Church have for a long time been English language churches. And if you go to Oakland at St. George's Antiochian Church, you see a congregation that, though its roots are in Damascus, Syria, the patriarch is there, is not predominantly an Arabic church. In fact, Arabic is used more as a second language, and they do Arabic classes so that their kids who have been born and raised in America can learn the language of their ancestors. But the Antiochians worship in English, and so the text of the liturgy is very accessible. And you look at that congregation, and less than half of them are Arabic, and a significant growing number are 20 and 30-somethings who have been attracted by the mystical nature of orthodoxy and that sense of awe and wonder.
I think that points out very well to us that at the heart and the center of the Christian faith is not necessarily an ethnic background, but the gospel and the biblical message, and as you say, the spiritual aspect that really does attract and enrich people's lives.
This year's theme for the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity is we are witnesses to these things, namely the death and resurrection of Jesus. And what our task as Christians, both individually and corporately as church and congregation, is to bear witness by the way we act, but also by the way we invite people to, as Philip did, say, come and see. And see this Jesus whom we worship, whom we believe is present every time we proclaim his name and read the sacred book, every time we break the bread and share the cup of the Eucharist. Christ is there, and invite people to come into that. Our jail ministry, I often comment that in our pods of hope, when men and women come on to that pre-release program, it doesn't matter whether they're Roman or Orthodox, Protestant or Anglican. They come in knowing their condition, that they are broken people, that they are sinners, and often without a sense of hope or any future, much less hope of an abundant life.
Certainly a very uncertain future.
But in that program, they find Jesus and people who love Jesus and share the story, and they find the transforming power of knowing Jesus Christ and living in a faith community. We as church need to know that we are every bit as broken and sin-filled as those inmates in the Allegheny County Jail, and that leaning on denominational tags isn't going to save us. But what is going to save us is that transforming power of Jesus' death and resurrection made real in a worshiping community that's inviting and energized and excited about being together because Jesus is real and alive.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, it's that heart of the gospel and that reality of the new life in Christ that is what we hold to and what we have to offer as the Christian presence.
Greg, there's a time when I would have maintained that, to be faithful, we as Lutherans needed to have a congregation in every neighborhood and every community. Mm-hmm. Some folk may think this is heresy, but there's some times when we're not equipped with the resources and understanding of the culture and the community needs to actively serve. It's then when we ought to be supporting our Christian brothers and sisters from other traditions who have the passion and the cultural sensitivity to plant the church, where once we may have been very strong, but now we're no longer the dominant ethnic group or dominant culture.
I guess over the last several decades, we've begun to see closer cooperation and greater understanding between denominations and the willingness to extend ourselves to full communion relationships and working relationships in communities and congregational combinations, if you will, of congregations.
I wish we would have more opportunity. Unfortunately, our church leaders are so busy dealing with the tactical issues of administering their synod or diocese that they can't always look strategically and say, how can we bring a Methodist, a Presbyterian, and a Lutheran church together in a community where all three cannot support a pastor, but bring a pastor in to live in that community and share the ministry of all three so that there is a common Christian witness.
Mm-hmm. Let's think about that just a little bit more when we come back. We do have to take one more break, and it's time to do that, and we'll be back for our closing segment.